So today we're going to be assembling the Birdcage from Klein & Palmer Designs. Now there are two different systems that we utilise to create big projects with small dies. So if you have a look at the back, you might look at that and think, how on earth is that going to become a birdcage? Well, I'm going to show you, and it's very easy, so don't be daunted by that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to be using our A5 nested dies to help create this construction. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually be using it for the base of our birdcage, for the side panel, and for the roof as well. So we're cutting down on a lot of dies that would, well, I guess one die that would need to be in this pack. And that die, so actually here's our A5 dies, A5 nested dies. That would actually be our third die in. Now if you want to measure that one to make sure that you've got it correct, I normally would measure from cut line to cut line, but it's actually easier on this particular one to measure the outside edge of that die. So if I take it off the sheet, let's have a look at it. This is the third one in. See that? So if I turn it over and measure it, you'll see that the outside edge, the width there, is pretty much bang on 5 inches. So you've got the right one, if that's the one that you've got. Okay, so we're going to be utilising this die and these dies. And that's what's going to create a birdcage. So number one, we've saved from having this die in our set because we're utilising our nesting dies. But another thing we're utilising is our PDFs. So what we're going to do is these dies are going to grow into this panel and this panel. So this is your front and your back, and these are your side panels. You don't need PDFs for the roof or the base. So how is that going to work? Well, I'm going to show you step by step. There's nothing to worry about here. All we're going to do is we're going to adhere the panels that we need that are outlined here, and we're just going to place them over the top. And I'm going to be using two different tapes. I'm just going to be using some low tack tape for the ones around the edge, and then for the internal pieces I'm just going to use some tissue tape. We can take some of the tack off as well to make it lower tack, because we will need to be removing the window at one point. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead one by one and remove the pieces that I need. Now for the first panel, what you're going to need, if you're going to be doing a vellum or an acetate liner, or if you're going to be using our new sparkle sheets, then what you'll need to do is you'll need to cut the exterior only, because you'll want your vellum to be behind your windows, so you don't need any of those to cut in. So that's what we're going to do first of all. I'm just going to lay the outside pieces down and show you how to cut those. So this is for the vellum or the acetate. Okay, so I'm just going to pop some low tack tape onto the corners. Now what you'll find, you will actually be able to download this PDF from the Facebook group, which is Kleina's Crafty Crew. I'm just going to pop some low tack tape across the corners there because there's no cut lines. Now you'll need to print it off at 100%. Sometimes on your printers it will automatically put it in at a size to fit the screen. You'll need to change that to 100%, either actual size or 100%. Either one will be great. So all I'm doing is I'm popping the pieces down and just putting them down with some low tack tape that you use when you're die cutting. Right, so we've got 4 pieces that form the roof section here. So you've got these 2 shorter pieces, they go on the outside. So I'm just going to make sure I've got them the right way around. Yep, that's that piece. So all you're looking for is your little connectors. It's just like a jigsaw. If you've ever done a jigsaw, then this will be all very familiar. Because this one's right on the edge, what I'm going to do is pop some tape on it and then just overlap it on the back. Now what I do with these is once I take them down, I actually leave them and store them on these sheets. There's no need to remove it. And, you know, there's no need to print one off every time you do it or anything. You'll probably find that you'll use it many, many times and it will never come off the sheet. You know, you'll never, you know, you won't need to renew it. I mean, it's only copier paper. That's all you want to be adhering it down to. So it's not the heaviest weight of paper, but you will find that it will do perfectly well. I mean, I've got some that I've taped down, you know, a few different designs now using the PDF. And the PDF is, you know, like I say, it's just copier paper. And I've done all my, you know, testing, samples, all sorts on the same piece of copier paper. So it's not like you're going to be having to run backwards and forwards to the printer all the time. But what I do is when I print it off, when I print it off is I print a couple at a time and save them all together. But I haven't had to reprint any so far because they last. And it's surprising just a little bit of low tack tape, but it keeps it there. Okay, so if I can show you this now, can you see how it's perfectly adhered? I mean, it's not going to drop off or anything. And then all we do is we lay our piece of paper over, paper or cardstock, and then we cut it. So now what we've done here on this particular one, and why I encourage you to print this out on copier paper, going back to that, is because it shouldn't interfere too much with your cutting sandwich, so it shouldn't add any extra pressure or anything, because it is just very lightweight copier paper. I use about a 75 GSM, so it's very lightweight. Okay, so now we've just got the external pieces here. That, when you put it through your machine, will give you this piece. So that's what I've done to cut this piece. I just laid a piece of vellum onto my sheet. I just popped it on, popped it through the machine, and then that came out. It'll, you know, if it's very thick vellum like this is 200 GSM. I've also done it with you know, heavyweight cardstock, 360 GSM. They all just pop out with the little teeth. Just wiggle it and it will pop out, no problem. Okay, so that's that. So you do, once you've done your vellum layers, then you'll need to put your pieces in for the front of your birdcage. Okay, so what we're going to do now, these are the internal pieces. I'm just going to use some tissue tape on the back of them. And I'm going to be taking off some of the tack. So I don't need it to be as high tack as it is. There, so I'm just putting a strip of tissue tape on the back of this piece. And then I don't want it to be overly sticky, because if I want to take this piece off again to do vellum layers, I don't want it to be overly sticky. So I'm just going to take some off on my jumper. I happen to have a fluffy jumper on today, so that's helping. But, you know, if you do find you have any troubles, I mean, if you do my trick about printing more than one off at a time, then when you do some vellum layers, if it does get too sticky or rips or anything, you know, you can just pop another one in. So I'm going to do that with each of these. Just going to put a little bit of tissue tape on and then pop it on my jumper to take away a lot of that sticky. Because when it goes through your die cutting machine, the pressure will adhere it much more than you think. So you really can take quite a lot of the sticky off. Okay, so just popping them in place. Right, so we've got these two little kind of triangular pieces here, and there's two different shapes. These are the ones you want, but you will know because if you lay them over the top and they don't fit exact, it will show. And again, a little bit of tissue tape. Oh, that hasn't got any sticky on. Let me have a look. Actually, these have got a little bit of sticky from the packaging, so I'm wondering if they will hold themselves, and I think they will. Right, now this is the main one. Now this is the window. Okay, so left on your piece, you've got the bracket, you've got your top ring, you've got the hole for putting your top ring in, you've got your two little other half triangles, if you like, and you've got your doorway. Now we're going to need the doorway in a minute, but those are the pieces we haven't used yet. Okay, now this is the one piece that we do actually need to remove. So if you can get, not have it too tacky, I think it'll be beneficial. Right, so we're just going to pop that in place. You want it to be nice and square. Basically, if you can cover up everything that's on the PDF and you can't see it anymore, then you've done your job. Then everything's on there perfectly. Now, like I say, unless you need to cut some more vellum layers, if you're cutting fronts, the only piece that gets removed is the window. We're going to need that again in a minute. The rest of it can stay on that sheet and you can store it like that if you like. And, well, the edges will never need to move. So you can use this, you know, to actually store your dies on. This is what I do. I don't remove them every time I use them. So that's nice and easy. Okay, I'm going to run that through the machine. I've got my switch. And I'm just going to put a piece of paper on top of this, mainly so it's easier for you to see. Because I've cut my pieces out in white cardstock, but I think this will be easier for you to see with the lights. Okay, so here we've got our front piece, our front panel. Now what we need to do is to remove the window piece, as we have to use that. So you can see it has torn some of the area there, but I can still pop that in place when I need it. That's no trouble. And then if it gets too bad, I'll just replace it with another sheet. Okay, so I'll just move that out of the way. Now we need, because we want 3 windows across the front of our panel, we've got one in place, but we're going to use the cutout here to place our second window. So you'll notice there are these little pin pricks around the outside edge of our window. Well, I've put those in deliberately so we've got perfect placement for when we move the window over. So what I want you to do is I want you to find, because in the bottom corner here, we've got a little pin prick. So we want to put that in the hole that the middle window's given us. And then I want you to kind of rotate it. So if you were to put it like that, you could literally rotate it and you feel it when it snaps in. That is your placement for your next window. Right, so let's get window 2 cut. Okay. Okay, and we'll slide it across. So now we're going to do the same the other end. So we're going to take that corner hole, I'm going to pop that little point into it, and we're just going to rotate it around until we feel them all kind of pop into place. And then we know we've got the perfect placement for our third window. And that is as easy as it is. So when you first see those dies, you might think, how on earth is that going to become a birdcage? Well, this is how. And what we're doing is we're saving the need to have that great big die, as well as side panels with windows in, as part of the pack. Because what we're going to do with the other PDF is we're going to do the exact same thing on the side panels. One thing I have noticed with this is it has actually been bending, curling a little bit, but you can actually straighten it back out. It's nothing to worry about. It just happens with the pressure. Okay, so that's what you end up with. So you've got all 3 windows, so you've now got your complete front panel. When it's finished, well, that one is finished. But here's the cardstock version that I've made, and I've actually put all of my red liner tape on ready for assembly. You can, of course, use wet glue, you know, good quality PVA or acrylic glue to assemble this. But the other thing we need to look at now is creating our door, because, well, bird cages have doors, but you need a way to get in and out to put your lights in, if that's the way you want to go with your, if you want to turn it into a luminaire, but just to have a door in general. So what I recommend is, because this is your front panel and this is your vellum layer, I recommend you get these 2 together and just pop a little bit of tape, just a tiny bit of low tack tape. Make sure they're nice and, you know, low tack. Pop them on your hand if you need to get some of the tack off. And just put a little bit of tape holding these 2 pieces together. Okay, on each side. So that will hold them together. And then what you want to do is get your door panel, and you want to tape that on your middle window. You want to line your door up around the dots in the middle window, but you need to look and make sure that there's a little bit of cardstock peeking out all the way around, and that way your cage will remain intact. Okay, so that's all you need to do. Pop that through your machine. Okay, once you've cut your door out, you can see the cardstock keeps the piece intact either side there. Okay, so now you've got them separate because you want to adhere your, you want to assemble your actual birdcage before you put your vellum inside. So, you know, we were only holding them together temporarily. So we know that when we do pop that in, that the doorway is in exactly the right place. Now, the 2 layers of the door, we can go ahead and stick those together. I've actually put some tape on there, so we'll actually pop them together. Now there is a, should I say, a bracket in the set that you will have seen. It's this piece. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to, I've actually folded them and put 2 rows of 6mm red liner tape. So once these are adhered right at the end, we'll pop the bracket behind it and we'll pop it into the doorway. So you won't really be able to see that, you'll just see a little bit on the inside when it opens. But yeah, that's how that works. That's nothing to worry about. But what this also is used for, this is actually quite important, is the side panels of the if I move that vellum. Okay, here at the bottom we've got a tab to adhere this panel to the base layer. This one we don't because it's just a nested die. So we need to put a tab in. So we're basically using that as a way to pop a little bracket, a little tab onto the bottom of our piece, and so we can join it to our bottom layer. And then what we're also doing is we're putting it on the top as well. And then that's where the roof panel will join in. So let's go ahead and let's start putting these pieces together. The one thing I haven't mentioned so far, I keep forgetting bits and having to keep going back. Okay, so you saw where these little half triangles were on the PDF for the side panel. They're there and there. You use one of the full triangles in the middle. The half triangles go on the side. Again, you pop everything over the top so you can't see it. So your nested die goes there. Your door die goes here. And then your little 3 triangles go there. So the only other pieces that we haven't looked at is this piece here. So you want to cut that twice. Okay, so I've got 2 of these. Now it's got a little score line, so you want to bend it along the score line. And then you want to put them back to back and just join the rings together. You don't want to join the 2 little legs together, just the rings. Okay. Now the last piece is this piece here. It's just a tiny little slot. And what we do is we take one of our nested dies, one of our A5 nested dies, and just run a pencil mark or run a ruler, hold a ruler from corner to corner, find your middle point and then pop your die in the middle. This will give you a little slot, and then on the outside of either of these legs just pop a little bit of glue or red liner tape. I'm going to pop that through. And there we are. Just going to let that glue and then that is the top. That is actually going to be the top of our birdcage. So we'll curve that round and then that'll be the top. That'll be your little handle. Okay, so one more thing that you'll see from the packaging is that if you have the lovebird dies, that you can actually do a peekaboo. Well, actually, you can hang them in there any way you'd like without any layers or anything. But the one really cool thing you can do is you can do the peekaboo silhouettes. So what that means is you cut the lovebirds, and if I have them here they are. So this is the accompanying lovebird set. Now, if you cut these from some, I've got some grey cardstock here. Now, what you want is a cardstock that's quite similar to the colour of vellum. So when it's behind in the daylight, that you won't really see it. It won't really stand out in the daytime. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut two of these, one for the front and one for the back. Okay, so now we've prepared all of our pieces. We've got our back panel with the windows and the vellum that will go behind it. We've got our front panel with the windows and the door cut out and the vellum that will go behind it. We've got the door and the vellum that will go behind it. Then we've got our side panels with the windows in and the vellum. So that's just vellum cut with the same A5 nested die. So we've got two of those. We've got two more of the exact same size of the nested die. Now this is going to be our base, so the tabs will be in between the two, and that will add some strength to our base. This is going to be our roof. This is the piece we popped our little handle in. Then we've got 5 of those brackets. And I've cut 2 of the little lovebirds from the lovebird set and their chains, because we're going to do a peekaboo luminaire. And what I've done is I've actually cut them from a pale grey cardstock, because that's the best colour for camouflaging behind the vellum during the daytime. So when you flip the light on, it becomes like a black silhouette, but during the day you can barely see that it's there. So that's why these are cut from pale grey. Okay, so that's all the pieces. So let's stick it together. Okay. Now we can go ahead and adhere the vellum behind the front panels and the door. We're not going to put the door into place until the very last minute, but we certainly can pop the vellum behind it now. This is going to be the last thing that we do, because it's really handy to have a hole in the birdcage to get your hand in. So like when you're, you know, it helps with the assembly. God, this liner sticks to you like anything. Okay. And because it's the exact same size, just line up on the edges. If you don't get it exact, don't worry, you can just trim around the edge of it. Trim any excess vellum off. So we've got our door. Okay, now let's pop our birds into place. Right, now what I've discovered is the birds need to be really quite close, need to be actually glued down to the vellum in order for them to create really crisp silhouettes when the lights are on. So what I'm doing is, well, the way I designed it was for the top of the chains to kind of sit along this bar here just above the windows. So I'm just going to add a little dab of glue. Actually got too much there. I'll add a little bit down here on the wings, or the tail feathers. Okay, so I want it central. I want them up. So that means they position themselves just on the outside of those little triangles. So you can just see the chains peeking out around those bars. Now, if I put the birds in on this one, it's actually going to be hanging in the doorway. So I'm going to do that right at the end, because I want to get my hand in and out of there. So that's why I'm not doing that now. Right, so we've got our front and back with the vellums on. Now we can't put the vellums on the side panels until after the piece is constructed. The tops of our side panels will be going around this curve. So what I'd like to do is get a little bit of curve in the vellum and in the side panels too. So I'm just going to rub it on the end of my desk. Just put my hand over it, just rub it over slowly a few times and encourage a curve. So I'm just using the flat of my hand. So I'm just going like that and rubbing it over the edge of my table. encouraging a curve. You can see that will really help. I'm going to pop my brackets top and bottom of my side panels. These actually become the tabs. So the bottom one actually folds under, the top one folds upwards. Because that's where the roof is going to join in on that corner. Okay, so let's join our panels together. Okay, I'm just going to start from the bottom there. Okay, I'm just going to fold these under so we are, when we've got it standing up, we're kind of standing on a flat base, even though we haven't got our base in yet. Otherwise we're balancing on tabs. Okay, that's better. Right, this might be a little bit tricky to see on the video, but let's see how we go. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to take the liners off and one by one kind of go round and stick it into place, and we're going to end up in that corner there. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the liners off the opposite side as well, because when I start curving this side, it's going to obviously curve that side as well. So I'm going to take the pieces off there. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that the side panel is right on the seam. Just want it to come right up into that corner. The other side, do the same. Okay, that's one side. Okay, I can put the vellum into the sides now. First bit I'm going to do, so I'm going to tuck the bottom tab in behind my little bracket piece. So that's holding that there in place. And here I'm going to tuck it behind, just behind my little bracket piece. Fix that. Okay. Now I've run my roof over the edge of my table. So we've got a nice curve going here already. And then I'm going to start from one side and I'll work my way around. Okay, I'm going to get it right in the corner where I want it. Okay. Right, and with my hand inside, I'm going to press them in one by one. Making sure it's right on the edge. I'm going to follow them round. Until you get right into the opposite corner. There you go. And I'll just get my hand inside and make sure all of those tabs are all pressed against the roof. Okay. Over to the other side, I'm going to do exactly the same. Make sure I'm right into the corner where I want to be. And then one by one, work my way round. Oops, it's got a bit stuck there. Just unstick that. Because we want to make sure that we're coming out to the front edge. And make sure and then from the inside I'm just making sure all of the tabs are adhered. Okay, so they're all stuck from the inside. Okay, now we're going to put our base in. So we've got two. One for the inside and one for the outside. I've forgotten to put tape on the inside. Now I should have put my birds in before I put the base on. So let's have a look and see if I can slide these into place. I'll just put a little bit of glue at the top and a tiny little bit on the bottom. Oh, this is going to be tricky. Oh, of course, I don't need it on the bottom because that's visible. Okay, that was silly. We do actually need the ones on this side to kind of move a little bit. So we really want to adhere them on the top because this is where we put our light in and out. I wasn't thinking. Okay. So now we know the position for the chains is just the outside of the full triangle, so it's about here. So I think I've got my finger there. Ooh. I didn't want to hold, I can't have held it for long enough. So we can just see the chain, so beside that. Okay, and the other one goes up here, the chain just peeking out. See if they're hanging okay. Okay, so if you can see that the birds are actually in place this side now. So the last thing we need to do is pop our door in place. And we're going to use our little bracket piece again. So I want my door to open that way. So I'm just lining it up with the bottom. And it doesn't, you know, and however far up it comes is fine. Okay, so it's going to be swinging outwards. Then we'll take off the other side. Okay, we're just going to pop it inside in here. Now we're going to line up the edge of the door with our opening. Okay, now one thing I'm finding is that a bit of the what do you call it? The bracket is visible. Now, if that bothers you, then you can trim it down. It doesn't actually bother me, so I'm going to leave it the way it is. But you can actually just trim it down so it hides behind that kind of railing there, the bar on the window. Okay, so there we have it. And when it closes, it should hold in place because it needs to come over just a touch. So if I could stick that over a little bit, but yeah, so it'll kind of close where it came out, but I actually like it to be slightly ajar. I think that's quite nice because you can see it's a door, and if you peek in you can see the little birds in there fluttering around. But I think that this side is better to have outwards if you're going to have it as a luminaire, because that's when you can see these silhouettes. So if I pop a light inside, because you've got the door, you can easily do that, any type of light that you've got. You can actually see there, if I turn the lights off a minute, the other lights, not all the lights, but you can imagine at night, if I bring the light forward a little bit, it'll be quite a silhouette. If I turn these two away a little bit, I can't turn them completely off, but you can see then you'll get at night time you get a really cool silhouette effect. So I actually think the back of the cage is nicer outwards, especially if you're going to have it as a luminaire. Okay, so there are lots of different ways that you can style your birdcage. You can have it as a luminaire with vellum in. So you've just got that kind of like diffused light. You can also, well, you can have it as a luminaire without any panels in there, without any acetate or anything. There's our sparkle screens as well. Now we've got glitter sparkle screens. For the birdcage, you will actually need to use 3 sheets of your sparkle sheets. It's an awful lot less. I will actually have a look at how much you'd use if you were doing a lantern. But yeah, it does actually use 3 sheets to do the birdcage with the sparkle screens. But like I say, you can have it as a luminaire with the vellum, with acetate, without any. You can have it as a table centre for a wedding, for a garden party. You can, if you do that, I think they're great. If you don't have any liner, you might want to put an extra layer on to make it a little bit more sturdy. But if you cover it with flowers, you can have them trailing around the bars, have a flower arrangement inside, or flowers or maybe butterflies trailing down the outside. So there are lots of different ways that you can actually style this. Like I say, it can be at weddings, it can be a garden party, it can be, you know, Mother's Day. What a great gift. There are all sorts of arrangements you can put inside, floral ones, they can be, you know, any kind of different things. Now with your lovebirds that I've put inside, because obviously there's Valentine's Day coming, you don't have to have them single colour. You can actually colour them, because lovebirds are actually quite bright and colourful, so you can colour them and add them in. But yeah, there's all sorts, basically any ornament or arrangement you can put inside. This will be a lovely way to showcase it. And yeah, I hope you really enjoy using and displaying yours, or using it as a gift. If you've got any different ideas that I've not mentioned, we'd absolutely love to see what you create. And so please join our group, Creative Cleaners Crafty Crew. And if you can pop a picture in there, we'd absolutely love to see what you make. I hope you enjoy it. I mean, it's quite a big project for the amount of dies in the pack, and it's quite a, you know, quite a sizable, I need to add a bit of glue there, quite a sizable project. And if you make the gift bag, the accompanying gift bag that comes in the same collection, this will actually fit inside the gift bag, so that's something else to think about. But yeah, I hope you enjoy crafting with it and creating with it and letting your creativity run wild and making it your own.